Ladies and gentlemen, we are back now with the man of the hour, Mr. Scotien Canadien, the man who is all over my YouTube homepage, who started his journey in 2018 and is here to talk Habs with us here at the No Respek podcast. First and foremost, welcome to the show, Matt. How are you today?
I'm good, man. That was a great intro. I appreciate it. I'm very excited to do this. I took note of your guys' podcast right away, just based off the graphics, man. They're fucking amazing. Whoever did those, really impressive. I come from a graphic design background, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, man, that's some perfect branding. So kudos there. And I've listened to a few episodes, love it, and hear nothing but good things all through the Habs community about you guys. So excited to be here.
Well, thank you, man. Really appreciate the kind words. And again, the pleasure is all ours. We've been dipping our toes a little bit more heavily in collaborations. We started off with Legacy. We spoke a little bit about Legacy, but he's starting a fucking podcast with Dale Weiss, which is insane.
Crazy, eh? Yeah.
Actually crazy. We also had Stuart from England, which was a great interview, and really happy for our third collaboration to be bringing the guy that we've been watching from YouTube. And I'm not gonna lie, dude, a pretty big inspiration in terms of just putting yourself out there, being honest, and really good analysis. That's level-headed, and it's sometimes hard to be level-headed, and which I've always respected from you. So, what we want to do to start off today's show, before I continue stroking you here, is just want to go through a couple of rapid-fire questions. Not actually a couple, quite a few, a multitude of rapid-fire questions.
Sure.
Because this is the way that people that maybe don't know Scotien Canadien, which if you don't know, of course, go and follow him on YouTube. He's also on podcasts now, so it's great. But yeah, just want to set the tone, want to contextualize our guests. So I'll start off, okay? This is the first rapid fire question. So again, rapid fire. Let's keep it maybe to a sentence, maybe a word, whatever you feel the most natural thing. Yeah, there you go. Phenomenal. All right. So, first question: favorite Hab of all time?
Oh, Larry Robinson. And I wasn't even alive when he was playing.
Beauty. Justin, go ahead.
Favorite non-Hab of all time?
Oh, God damn, I was not ready for this. Jesus Christ. Joe Sakic.
Oh, good one.
Beauty. Alex.
Right? Here, a tougher one. PK Subban or Shea Weber?
Oh, man. PK Subban in his prime was incredible, but right now, definitely Shea Weber.
Fair enough. I like it. Your worst hockey take ever?
Oh, man, that Drouin was going to hit 80 points in his second season with the Habs. Fucking, there's a flub.
I think we're all wishing that.
Yeah, 100%. Just so you know, mine was Scott Gomez would bounce back. So that's a little bit about me. Yeah, go ahead, Justin.
Habs player that you wished reached his potential.
Galchenyuk. So hyped on Galchenyuk.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's good. Yep.
Alex still thinks he's gonna reach it.
Like I said last week, it's the only Habs shirt I have. Man, Galchenyuk was my favorite player for so long. But just so sad watching him disappear, basically.
Has he even
all
played
right.
yet for the Leafs?
No,
I don't think so. No.
No, not yet. Brutal.
Right, I guess quick one just off the top of your head. Who's the most obscure Habs player you can think of?
Kilger? What, Chad Kilger?
Oh,
I
that's
like
a good
it.
one.
Fucking love it. Love it.
I like Andreas Dackel. That's a good one.
Ovechkin or Crosby?
Crosby. Easy.
Like it.
Oh, sorry. McDavid or McKinnon?
Oh, God. I get roasted for this, but I go McKinnon every time. I have to. He's from here, and he's on that tier, but McDavid's incredible. But I gotta stick with my boy McKinnon.
I
Love it.
Legacy said he picked McDavid, and he said he would take some flack from his
His
like the
East Coast
locals around
roots.
him.
Oh, yeah.
All right, who do you think is a bigger rival, the Leafs or the Bruins?
Bruins. Yeah.
Bruins.
The Leafs rivalry is just fake. There's just no true animosity there.
There's no foundation, really.
Yet. Yeah. No.
That's it. Skill or heart?
Man, skill.
Like it. Like it. All right. This one's a good one. Justin, finish it off.
Kotkaniemi or Suzuki?
Kotkaniemi or Suzuki? Jeez. I'm gonna go KK. I
I
still
love
believe
it.
in him. I
Wow,
still believe in
really?
him. Give
I like
give
it.
him give him 2 years and he's gonna be a beast.
You see the jersey, buddy? You see the jersey? That's it. I love it. I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah.
All right. Okay. So now the folks back at home, you kind of get a taste of Scotien Canadien. Of course, it's late. It's Sunday, and he answered those beautifully. So we're gonna get into some real shit here. This week is probably the perfect week to set this interview up because there's been so much that's been going wrong, so many changes, such as Claude Julien leaving. Just so you know, Scotian, I'm going to call you Matt, but it's out with the Claude, in with the do for our episode name. So there you go. So I want to get your take here because I know that you're a big Mooseheads fan and you got to see Ducharme live. And if I'm not mistaken, in your last video, you actually saw him win the Memorial Cup with Drew and Nathan McKinnon and all that good stuff. So I want to get into your take here is why is Ducharme maybe what the Habs need right now? And what do you think he's going to do much differently than Claude Julien?
I definitely think, and we've heard it a bunch now, it's a fresh voice, and I think the guys needed that. But I definitely think it's a voice that the younger players are going to relate to a lot more than Claude, especially the really, really young guys like KK and Romanov and Suzuki. And it was just getting stale with Claude, and it's just lack of adjustments, and that's a specialty that Ducharme has. He's had some comeback wins in his past in the junior coaching career. And it's nice to have a coach for once in a long time that's kind of a offense first coach. The defense isn't going to go to the wayside, but at the same time, I think he's really going to bring out the best in the players. Where it's like it seemed that guys would come here and they'd have all the skill in the world, and then it would be like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like not promoted. It wasn't allowed to flourish, and then you see guys struggle. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
Ducharme's not that guy. I think he's going to have good one-on-one relationships with individuals and try to bring out the skill sets of a lot of different players.
So I had one follow-up question because this is one thing that really stood out when I was listening to Ducharme speak. And this is during one of his interviews here at, I think it was, the day that he was hired. I can't remember exactly. But one thing that really stood out was that he didn't use the word systems. He likes the word rules that you follow. So that means that it's a little bit more relaxed, and he likes for players to express themselves. So I don't know if there's anything specific from your side in terms of like those in-game adjustments. Like I think one of the things that I noticed right off the bat in his first game was that he wanted to start Anderson out there with Danault and Gallagher. So to send maybe a little bit more energy, correct? So
Yeah.
I'm just curious, what else do you think that this guy is going to be bringing potentially right now, given the circumstance of the Habs? Like I know that we discussed, the one-on-one kind of relationships that might be better and stuff like that, but more from a tactical standpoint, if anything that you saw in his time in Halifax.
Well, I think he'll have no problem rolling with the hot hand. Like if there's a guy that's hot, I think he'll double shift them, like no question. Or if there's a line that's hot, the minutes will go up there. I think that'll be a big one rather than just not just rolling 4 lines just to do it and spread the minutes out evenly, but utilize who's going on any given night. I think that'll be big for Dom in Montreal.
Love it. Love it. Justin, Alex?
Yeah, well, I
If there
think
is
what
a
you said
question.
about like the creativity, like it's really, I mean, players sticking to a system, it works in certain circumstances, like we saw with kind of Mike Terrien's system of just kind of like playing defense and being there and buying into just working on the system and stuff. But at the end of the day, if you have skilled players like Anderson, like Drouin and stuff, you want them to be creative and not be kind of held back by a system or by a certain kind of things that the coach tells them that their hockey instincts don't want them to do. So I really think that was kind of a very encouraging thing to hear, that he wants the players to kind of be creative, express themselves, and kind of come up with their own ideas, at least to a certain extent, in the offensive zone. So, I mean, I think we saw some of that in the first couple games of Ducharme's well, Ducharme's career, I guess, with the Habs as a head coach. But yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing more.
A couple of things I want to touch on that you mentioned with like riding the hot hand and the ice time. I think Suzuki hit, was it 21 minutes last night? So I could definitely see that he will be riding the players who are playing better, giving those offensive talents more chances, more opportunities. Hopefully this leads to Kotkaniemi getting a bit more ice time too, who's been playing pretty well the last couple of weeks. And I don't know if we want to dive into it yet, but like you mentioned, how it'd be a more offensive looking, not system like Mackie said, but is a more offensive leaning coach, which I think at this point with how our goaltending's been, that maybe we have to start leaning that way since we don't seem to be able to rely on the goaltending to bail us out anymore. Maybe Allen can step up and be huge, but I think this defensive system, if Price isn't playing like Carey Price, won't really work. So hopefully he can help these offensive talents flourish, and kind of we can start leaning that way and start winning games with offense rather than defense.
I mean, at the end of the day, when we kind of have to have the skill to back that up too, though. And I mean, I think we do have skill on our team for sure. But I think I don't know. I don't want to like put him down or anything, but I think Ducharme would maybe benefit with a team that has more of those like superstar players like Toronto or something, or like in on the Mooseheads when he had Drouin and McKinnon. So I'm not saying it's not going to work or anything. I'm just saying that the Habs will still have to play that kind of. I think it's going to be a kind of hybrid of being good defensively, but also having those kind of moments where they play more creatively in the offensive zone.
I agree with you. Something I was thinking about today is in response to, how we're seeing him handle the defense pair so far. People are up in arms that there hasn't been many changes and whatnot. Well, I'd like to see, guys, depending on where the face-off is and where they're going to be playing, maybe the D pairs change. So there's nothing wrong with Weber and Sherratt being out there together, but maybe they start in the D zone. But then when you have an O zone face-off, Chuck Romanov with Weber and try and get a cycle going right off the draw. Something like that. A little bit more creativity than just sticking with, set lines and set pairs and just adjust. And a big thing is like love to see them play a different style depending on who they're playing on. Like we under Claude the last couple games, we see them play a passive defensive game, and it's like, let's open it up a bit here. This is the Sens that they don't have a decor that's going to completely shut us down if we want to experiment, that type of deal, right?
Absolutely, and I'm gonna come in with a shitty analogy here, but the way I see Claude, and I see, yeah, I am. So the way I see Claude and the way I see Ducharme, at least the way that I would categorize them, is that like Claude Julien is more of like a baker. Now, I'm a man who enjoys his calories, so this is why I'm coming into food here. So Claude, being a baker, really sticks to the book. So you got to follow the recipe to the point to be a great baker. And he doesn't try to do anything different. But Ducharme is a chef. Ducharme comes in, he does the eye test, he tastes it, he puts in a little bit of salt, he puts in a little bit more of olive oil, all of these things. And what I'd love to see, I'm sorry if I'm going real fucking off the board here, but I'm curious to get your take here, is that like what I really liked, I don't know, it's a very small sample size. But do you see like guys like Jonathan Drouin, because he's already had a very strong season, and I think listening to your videos and stuff like that, I saw that, I know that he was good last season, and then there was injuries that struck and maybe kind of stumped his progression from that standpoint. But the first game that he played there in Winnipeg, I don't know if it was just the fact that like, and even after the game, his comments, I was like, fuck, like this could be, it's a different vibe. It's just like less like, kind of like in his place, trying to be timid. Like he literally at one point, I think he said it in French, it's like, I don't care if we're not feeling well. We got to get results. Like it's too much. So I'm curious, like, do you think that there's anything there from a Ducharme perspective that's changing maybe the way that these young players are going to come in and tackle the responsibilities, since that Claude was a little bit of that old school guy?
Yeah, I think it was the game, the last Julien game actually. Towards the end, Suzuki started getting a bit of energy going, and then once Ducharme took over, he's kind of carried it on. And the same thing with Drouin. It's he's having a good season already, like you mentioned. But the big thing was the comments after the game, complete attitude change. It was like he wasn't the new guy anymore. It just seemed like he didn't get a he had been here for so long, and he still hadn't kind of taken over any kind of leadership role. But to hear him make those comments after, it's like he knows that the guy in charge is going to back him up if he says something like that. And it's not like it was false either. So
Yeah.
I was really impressed by those comments. But I definitely think the young players are going to benefit. We've seen Romanov already like looking, getting the confidence back
Yeah.
since Ducharme took over. So I'd love to see him build on it. Like rung one off the crossbar last night. That would have been a huge momentum swing for us if he got that in, and for him.
Yeah, 100%. The last game, I mean, like it was as much as we can talk about the overtime, the selection of getting Dano to win the face-off. He explained it pretty well. So, that was the part where I was like, okay, get it. And it's also like you said, like it's a fresh start here, for this group. You're trying to give a little bit of that benefit of the doubt, like, okay, let's do a reset. So I know that nobody's necessarily excited to get Phil Dano out, but the explanation helped, at least for me. But I'm curious now, like coming back to the Habs as a whole, because right now, obviously, fucking shit has hit the fan. It's not going well, and even though we saw a spark here last game against the Jets, and we saw a little bit of that team that was once at the top of the season. What do you think here? If there was a diagnosis to give, I want to start from offense, defense, like all three areas. Like what are the biggest problems for you if you can sum it up for each position? Obviously the goalie position is going to be an easy one, but that type of diagnosis, and as well as like what is the solution? And it's obviously not all on Duchamp, but what do you think needs to be fixed exactly so that we can get back on track? I know that's a loaded question, by the way.
Yeah. So first, I don't think the Weber Sherratt pairing works against every single opponent. So you definitely need a little bit more puck movement there with Weber, and someone who can cover for him if he ends up, beaten a little bit. But the big thing is like there's Jeff Petry's the only elite level puck moving defenseman on the decor. So it's not for Romanov's so young, so we can't count on him fully for a lot of that. That's definitely an area of improvement. Like we still haven't replaced Markov. He's been gone for like 4 or 5 years now. That was just such a huge loss. And then this you can't really fix this. It's inexperience down the middle. The guys are so young. Maybe it's just they're getting worn down by a lot of these teams in the North Division who have stacked lineups down the middle. Like that'd be a lot to ask for two young kids. That will improve over time. You just got to deal with it. But I think definitely something that would immediately fix this team is a defenseman other than Jeff Petry who could quarterback a power play or quarterback a cycle and make those good plays along the blue line in the offensive zone.
I mean, to your point, like I saw in the beginning of the season, Romanov was playing on the power play, and he was quarterbacking it. And I'd really like to see him again on the power play. And I feel like we haven't. I don't know if he's played on the power play since the first whatever it was, like 5-6 games of the season. But I thought he was really promising on the power play, and he could be a good option to. I know he's young, and we have like a pretty young team, but. I mean, I feel like people are kind of forgetting that like we missed the playoffs last year. It's not like we're like a team that's there and is just ready to win the cup, right? Like, I feel like we're just with the expectations are so high, and we still have all these young players that still need to develop, still need to kind of find their place in the NHL, find their place, like find how to play in the NHL. So, I think it's been good to have like these players kind of have the opportunity to do it, but we have to be patient with them. And we have to maybe take some chances and do that. So,
I mean, if we're calling for these guys to get more minutes and then they do, and then it leads to mistakes here and there and losses or whatever, we got to live with it. But that's the thing. Got to live or die by the young players right now, I think, anyway.
Yeah. I mean, we're in a weird spot where it's like we have young players with tons of potential and then like older players that are kind of getting over the hump. And we kind of want to squeeze it in where we have a kind of mix of both. And our window is closing and opening at the same time. So it's just a weird it's a weird dynamic to have, but that's the reality, and we have to kind of, I guess, deal with it
I
the way
mean,
we can.
the big issue too is right now, like no one's going really. Like when you think about it, like Carey Price at 10.5 million, like everybody knows he has the capabilities, but if you want young guys to develop, you need a $10.5 million goalie to be a $10.5 million goalie to sustain those errors. And Jake Allen has been providing those performances, and then when you see that, you see the difference in the game. And then after that, we speak about maybe Shea Weber, but Jeff Petrie, we come back to the beginning of the season, and we spoke about this on the podcast as well, is that beginning of the season, there's three things that were going. Is the fact that your centers, like Nick Suzuki, was playing right on par with how he was in the bubble. And obviously he's a young guy, so it's normal that he's going to step back. And it's the same thing with maybe a little bit of Jesperi Kotkaniemi, where he's not at the exact same level. And then add to this is that Phil Danault has disappeared, literally missing, MIA, and all
At
of
least
your guys.
offensively.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And even defensively, screening Jake Allen last night, fuck, like, come on. But my point is that, like, Jeff Petrie was, like, Norris conversation. All of these guys are not there to kind of shield the people that need the time to develop and make those mistakes. It's like, if Kotkaniemi loses the puck, it's going to go in because Carey Price is not making that key save right now. I think that we can come back to that, but without that piece in your veterans, those performances, it's going to be difficult, and it's going to be a shit season if it continues that way. So I don't know how it's going to get resolved unless those guys step up. Alex, did you
Yeah,
have any? Sorry,
I was,
go ahead. Matt.
yeah, I was just gonna say, how frustrating is it to watch Carey Price get goal support and lose, and then Jake Allen stand on his head and not get any goal support? Just yeah.
No, it seems like it's not even we're watching the Canadians anymore. Like it used to be for the last whatever it was, 5 or 6 years. It was like Carey Price is the one to bail us out from these games where we score 1 or 2 goals, and now it seems like they flip the script almost.
Yep.
But anyway, I don't know if we want to get into Carey Price or anything, but
Well,
that's a whole
I
other.
think I was just going to ask Alex because it's tough, guys. Again, when it's remote, it's difficult to see the intent to speak. So, Alex, if there's anything that you wanted to add to that before we maybe move into another question here.
I mean, the only thing I was going to add on to when you guys were talking about the defense where Petrie's not there and Romanov not on the power play anymore, like we're not getting that offensive support from our defense. If you look at Montreal's past seasons, even when Markov was there, I'm not saying Petrie's on Markov's level, but Petrie doesn't really have support there from other D-men. I'm not blaming Romanov, like everyone said, he's super young, but we always had a guy like Mark Streit or even Nathan Beaulieu, who's horrible defensively, but he helped the offense a bit. Marc-Andre Bergeron, those guys, like we always had that odd either free agent signing or veteran defenseman could help out offensively. I think that's really noticeable with Weber slowing down and Petrie having this rough stretch of games that we just don't have that. It seems like a lot of the zone exits are the winger gets the puck. He's not moving. The pass isn't fantastic. It's not really tape to tape. They're kind of stretching for it, and then it's just a dump in. I mean, last game looked better. The cycle was going pretty good. What we have, like 40 shots on net, 41 shots on net. They were getting good offensive time, but it just feels like that defensive aspect has really been missing.
Yeah, I totally agree there. I mean, again, we're hoping that it comes back to what it was, but this is where my other question comes in here. And Matt, I'd like you to start us off. But do you think that the Habs, what happened in the beginning of the season there, the first 10 games were legitimately, we were planning the parade. Phone calls were being made. We were shutting down Crescent Street. We're planning all the routes. And now we're to the point where we're literally worried that we're not going to make the playoffs. And this is a team that I could be wrong in this, but I think everybody agrees is too good on paper to miss the playoffs, right? So where do you see the Habs realistically? Is it somewhere closer to where we were at the beginning of the season, or is it closer to what we are right now?
Man, it's tough, especially now with the coaching change and whatnot. But they were just so good to start. And the one thing though that kind of concerned me early on in the season was all those penalty kill goals. Like that wasn't gonna. There's no way that was gonna be sustainable. So, and that was a lot of our offense coming from there, and that could have just been like obviously Lehkonen and Evans and whatnot were aggressive on the PK, but it could also have just been teams cold, making mistakes on their own power play, and we did a really good job capitalizing. But yeah, hard to say. I'd say it's somewhere in the middle. Like we've seen now the Montreal Canadiens face every team in the North Division, and early on we had only faced a select few. And I didn't want to believe that it was just because we were facing the Canucks and their poor defense, but turns out that might have been it. I do think, though, that the Habs can battle back. I mean, the roster isn't significantly different than it has been the last couple of years when we just missed the playoffs and when we've seen them face the Washingtons and the Blues and the Pens and fare very well against them. And then we go and add guys like Anderson and Allen and Toffoli. You'd think that we should have improved on that. So it'll be interesting. We still got 6 games against the Leafs. Those are going to be huge ones. Someone brought up to me the other day that hopefully the Leafs just keep winning because that means the rest of the teams in the division are losing, and that might actually help us out.
Good
Then
point.
if we can get those wins against the Leafs, that could go a long way to bring us back up in the standings. But yeah, it's going to be tough to chase Edmonton now because they're kind of on a roll, and it does scare me that it's Calgary of all teams behind us because I think they're a lot better than how they've played so far, especially with Jacob Markstrom back there.
100%. And sorry, go ahead, Justin.
I'm just grateful that we did have the start to the season that we did, because at this point now, if we didn't have this kind of cushion, we'd be in it with Ottawa and being just wishing that we're gonna go on a 10-game winning streak or something to bring us back into the race. So at least now, we're just above 500, which is obviously not great, but we're still in the race. It's not like it's not like it's over or anything. So I mean, I think we can still obviously make the playoffs. And yeah, I mean, the beginning of the season, our PDO was probably through the roof. Our shooting percentage was up there at 30% or so. So it was obviously going to come down. I just didn't think it would come down this hard and this quickly.
Oh, this is rock bottom, for fuck's sake.
And in all aspects of our game too. It seems like our defense, our offense, and our goaltending just kind of shit the bed all at the same time. And that's a pretty messy mess to clean up, So
yeah, I think if we don't fix the power play, we're in big trouble. With the offensive talent some of these teams have, even Vancouver, as much as they're struggling, they have some good offensive weapons. Toronto, Edmonton are going to beat us if it comes to special teams. So I think if this doesn't get fixed, I think I saw a stat that in the last 2 years we're either second last cumulatively on the power play, which is pretty brutal. And I think that's what we need right now to win these games that we're losing by 2 goals, 1 goal. We've scored 1 power play goal, I think, in the last 6 games, and before that it was bad as well. Like you said, we're not getting the shorthanded goals anymore, so we need the special teams to step up somehow. It's just been terrible, and we need those goals.
I'm really hoping, that's a great point, and I'm really hoping that Ducharme is a big reason why we do get it back on track. And because I just don't think Julien or Muller, whoever was running it, was putting the players in a position to utilize their strengths. It goes back to what I said earlier. I think that's that one specific area, and it was kind of weird. I was just hoping it would help on 3-on-3, but last night it was kind of weird how that played out. But I'm really hopeful that Ducharme will put guys in a place where they're utilizing their strengths, and it'll be a lot more deceptive. And it was even when the power play changed under Julien and Muller, it just never get any, wasn't cohesive, and there was just no chemistry out there. And yeah, that's all I got.
Yeah, no, and one thing that I we spoke about Ducharme, being part of this group here, leading this group, of course, but I also really like the fact that you have a guy like Alex Burrows as well that has been a player recently that can maybe talk again, and change the mindset. And that guy was a hard-nosed guy to play against, and I really like that type of voice to be given to these youngsters that need to change their mindset because, I know it's a cliche and a lot of people don't like to hear these type of like, like it's not unless it's like concrete, it's usually kind of these vague type of things that we use, but mindset is a big thing for me. And especially on a power play, a mindset can change the look of how dangerous your team is. If you got a guy that's like, well, I'm gonna just pass because this is part of our system, or like, no, I want to really score here. Like I want to fucking find the net. And I'm hoping that this change in voices with Alex Burrows and Duchamp, can fix that. But at the end of the day, I think that it comes back down that you need the Canadians are only going to be good if they fire on all cylinders. And right now, it's all out of sync. You got guys that you need to step up that aren't stepping up. And until you got everyone going, this is a team that's built on its depth. And if you remove that, it doesn't have depth, which is the problem right now. So I think that pretty much I know that you're limited on time here, Matt. So let's get into the last portion here. I really appreciate the analysis and the time here, but we're gonna do a fun one, not an easy one. So go with it. And Senators fans, we apologize in advance if we anger you. We're gonna try to be as least biased, at least I think so, as we can. But Justin, please set up the next Would You Rather with Scotien Canadien.
Yeah, so here, Would You Rather, if you don't know, is just a little segment where we put two players against each other and say who we'd rather have on our team at this point in time. So we don't have to go in the past or in the future. We could just evaluate them for what they are now, I guess. But I guess, I mean, we could talk about their potential. I guess it's
you can talk literally about anything that makes
talk
your
about
point.
their look. You can say,
Yeah, literally, 100%.
And obviously, for people who aren't listening on YouTube or watching on YouTube, this week what we have is Brady Tkachuk versus Jesperi Kotkaniemi. Obviously, Jesperi picked third, and Brady Tkachuk picked fourth in the 2018. Was it 2018 or 2019 draft? 2018.
2018. Yeah.
Yeah. So very close. Obviously, the Habs could have had Tkachuk if they wanted to pick him. So yeah, let's start it. Let's get it started here.
Yeah, go
Sorry,
ahead, Matt.
Is my camera fucked up for you guys
Oh,
too?
yeah.
You
Yeah,
guys seeing
yeah,
that?
it is.
I don't know what that is.
Dude, okay, so this is like this is gonna make it into
there it
now it's
is.
working. Now it's working.
Perfect.
Okay, beauty. All right, sorry about that. Technical difficulties. Now it's working. So yeah, start us off here, Matt, and you can use again if it's just right now performance potential, all of these things, and
Okay.
please be careful because I've got Kotkaniemi jersey. I know that you're a big fan as well. So.
It's so tough, and like just seeing the way Brady's playing right now is like how do you not pick him? And I love both Kachucks. The moment that we passed on him and took Kotkaniemi, like I was excited about the Kotkaniemi pick, but just the thought of having to deal with Brady for the next 10, 15 years was brutal. And sure enough, it has been. And him, Stutzla, and Josh Norris look really strong together right now. And Brady is like the consistency that this kid has. Like every season so far, he's finished around 45 points. Like, and I love seeing that in a player, just that pinpoint consistency in their output. And he just brings so much to the game. Now, so obviously right now, if I had to pick, it'd be Brady for sure. And he's got plenty of potential too. Like, but the thing is, we all knew he was more NHL ready coming in. Right off the bat, we knew Kotkaniemi was going to be a project. He's playing the harder position, no doubt. He's not getting nearly as many minutes. And he was a tall, lanky kid. And that's what he was drafted at. He needed to fill out. And we know the type of game that he likes to play. He likes to be aggressive in the corners and, use his size to, muscle past people. And he doesn't quite have the size yet to do that. He falls a little bit too easily. He's a little awkward sometimes. But the more he matures, I think he's going to become a really special player. One of these guys, and I compared him to Getzlaf in the past. Not flashy, but just does everything very, very well. And you're just not sure what you're going to get from him on any given night because he's just good at everything. I don't know. So in the long term, I'd go Kotkaniemi, and that's hoping that he does reach his ceiling. But yeah, definitely right now it's Brady.
Good answer. Who's next here? Alex, I want to get your take because you're a little bit more unapologetic when it comes to our Habs players usually.
No, I mean I love Kotkaniemi, but I'd pick Brady Tkachuk for sure. Um, I think he's everything you want in a player, right? He's the reason we love Brendan Gallagher. Tkachuk is basically Brendan Gallagher but bigger. He seems to be developing points wise as well. Like his stats line there is pretty good. Like Matt was saying, pretty consistent ever since he started in the NHL. I think he's been top 10 in the league in both shots and hits in every season since he's started. And I think he's just one of those guys that when the team's not going, he's there to pick everyone else up and get people playing, right? Exactly like Gallagher. Whereas Kotkaniemi, I can see developing into a player like Getzlaf, a 60, 70, maybe even 80-point guy if he reaches the top of his potential. But I don't think he's one of those guys who makes the rest of the team better. I think Tkachuk, you know what you're getting every single night. Yeah, he might take some dumb penalties sometimes, but especially in the playoffs too, I think he's exactly the kind of guy you want. Like I said, I hope Kotkaniemi develops. I love him as a player. I want to see him succeed, but I'd pick Tkachuk.
Justin,
No,
that was a
Matt,
good answer,
you
by
go
the way.
first.
Me? Okay,
Yeah,
all right.
I'm the
fair
host of
enough.
the segment. Come on.
Okay, all right, fair enough, fair enough. All right. I mean, you guys said it. I think that there's too many ifs right now with Kotkaniemi to be like saying like yes, Barry Kotkaniemi for this segment. However, what I will say, and you brought it up, Matt, is he's a centerman, and I don't think Brady Tkachuk just because of his position is as valuable. And I'm a centerman stroker. I 100% take that on. But when you look at teams that need a player, I think that the value that Jesperi Kotkaniemi could potentially bring to your team at the most important position is something that you need to take into consideration in this. And I know that Sens fans are going to be like, you're a fucking idiot. It doesn't matter. For me, there's a huge part here that as a centerman and the skills that Jesperi Kotkaniemi is showing at the tender age of what? He just turned 20 like recently. He's like one of these 10th youngest player in the league. So there's a lot of questions, but I do think that again, in the long run, Jesperi Kotkaniemi for the value that you're getting for an NHL team is why I would choose him. But for now, again, Brady Tkachuk. So a little bit of a redundant answer here, but that's why.
Yeah. So, I mean, good answers from all of you. I think everything's pretty logical. I think Brady Tkachuk is kind of one of those players that you hate playing against, but you love on your team, and any team would love to have him, like a Darcy Tucker or Marchand or Gallagher.
Tom Wilson.
Exactly. All of those kinds of players that kind of have an impact on the energy of the team and also on the score sheet, which is like a huge plus. The only thing I'd say about Brady Tkachuk versus Jesperi is that Brady Tkachuk came up on a bottom of the bucket Ottawa Senators team. So he was kind of given the creativity and the ice time to do whatever he really wanted and to develop at his own pace on a team that really had no business even winning, getting to the playoffs or winning games. So that's the only reason I would say that I think his numbers and maybe his development is a bit maybe
Skewed.
overstated skewed compared to Jesperi Kotkaniemi's, who was on, I mean, still a shitter of a team on the Habs, but he played more of a role of being a support player instead of being like that player that's like, we want to hype this player up to be one of our top forwards, to play 20 minutes a night and get all the power play time that's possible. So I really think that like the numbers are a bit skewed, and if Jesperi Kotkaniemi maybe got the same opportunities as Brady Tkachuk, the numbers might be different and we might be having a different conversation. But having said that, right now I'd say Brady Tkachuk, but I think like Matt said, in the future I want to say Jesperi Kotkaniemi.
It is a Habs podcast. I mean, it's gonna get there.
It's a Habs podcast, but all four of us picked Brady Tkachuk. right now,
Yes,
right?
but
So
the
I
long
mean,
run, the dream is
the dream.
Kotka.
I mean,
Yeah.
real.
You gotta go there. You gotta go.
Imagine the center depth if we had Kachuk instead of Kotkaniemi. I guess there'd be a lot of different things might have happened over the last couple of years, but
But that's
the
it.
center depth position would still be looking real bad right now, especially considering how Dano has kind of hit a wall.
Exactly.
I have one regret though, or at least I would hope one regret that the team has with Kotkaniemi's development, and that is not sending him to the World Juniors. I think he would have benefited so much to dominate at that tournament, like once, if not twice. That confused me big time. Just figured I'd put that in there.
Yeah,
It's a really
It's
good
true.
point. I mean, obviously, you look at what, Nick Suzuki going down to the OHL, tearing it up in the playoffs, and what that brought to him coming into this team. And obviously, when you look a little bit you look at the progression of Nick Suzuki, just because we're on the topic here, obviously, would you rather is over. So, but my point being here is that when we lost Matt here.
Oh
We're gonna
shit,
get back.
my bad.
It's all good. It's all good. But
Oh,
yeah,
that's
so I think that when we look at the progression, obviously it would have been great to just, even that stint that he did in the AHL did him wonders. So coming back into the bubble, just having a different mindset, playing under Joël Bouchard. So, you know, the we'll see in the long run. It's tough to do these would you rather's with young players because it all plays out, But Matt, this was awesome. We really, really thank you for your time. I know we went a little bit over here, but
It's all
just an
good.
absolute pleasure to have you on. And again, guys, I'm gonna let you maybe do all of the plugs necessary, but this is a guy that has been, again, the face of the Habs community on Reddit. I've been following your fucking Reddit comments when you were Matt Bedard back then, and honestly, just please go ahead because anybody who doesn't know Scotian Canadian, you really should because it's just great work that he does.
I really appreciate the support, guys. I'm just another fan, just like you guys. I started it because I needed, a hobby in my life, and I couldn't have imagined it kind of taking off to the level it has so far, and just kind of still treating it like that. I'm doing it for fun, nothing more. And I'm really glad to be able to come on and speak with good people like you guys. I really appreciate the invite and glad to be here and was happy to do this.
Yeah,
Well,
thanks,
thank you
man.
again. Really, really appreciate it.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you, man. It's like I love your post game things when we win the game and we hear you go woo, like that's that's just like exactly how I'm feeling like when you have so much passion going for you, and it's awesome to see.
Yeah. Again, a huge thank you. Again, Scotien Canadien. Follow him on YouTube. He's also on podcast right now. Right, all of your format has been into podcast form now. Right, people can find you there. So I'm actually going to let you maybe go on with any other plugs that you want to do for your channel. Of
Yeah,
course.
sure. So yeah, just Scotien Canadian on YouTube. I've somehow not missed a game this year, despite being crazy busy with the kids at home. So yeah, on YouTube, and then I just put it in podcast form, just so that ease of access type of thing. And I'm working with High Button in Nova Scotia right now. We sit down every Thursday and do a back and forth, and I'm with two Leafs fans, so I get kind of lit up here and there and shit talk quite a bit. But especially now with how it's going. But so that's a lot of fun. So you can check that out too.
Awesome. Well, again, Matt, Scotian Canadian, again, a huge thank you for joining us tonight. We're hoping that the Habs turn the ship, but hopefully we can have you back on because we really, really appreciate it and just a pleasure to have you. So without further ado, we'll come back to the episode and cheers.
Cheers.